this regular meeting of the DRB to order. I'm Rob Goodwin, serving as the vice chair this evening. Sharon has retired her chairmanship and her service in the DRB. Thank you to her for all her energy and efforts. We'll start by introducing the board members, and then we'll go to
Connell, board member.
Joe Kiernan, board member.
Meredith.
Meredith Crandall, staff.
And online we have
Alex Halas, board member.
Okay. That is the 4 board members present. Meredith, would you care to review the verbal meeting procedures?
I'm muted. Yeah. Alex, do you have something conflicting? I'm trying to figure out. There's a bit of an echo going on. Yep, you just muted yourself. That seems to have dealt with it. So I think make sure you're muted when you're not talking.
Okay, well, I should say that this is a new computer and a new download. So, and it's different than the one I've been using for the last 5 years.
I had the same thing happen with me. So as long as you mute, if you mute now it's good. Now we don't get an echo. There's something funky when you unmute. If you talk, it's fine. If we're talking and you're unmuted, we get a double echo through our speakers. I don't know what's up. Yeah. Weirdness. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen for people who haven't seen this before. And most of this is this, or at least the beginning part of the spiel and everything on the screen is for people who are viewing the meeting via ORCA Media. But there is some information I'll share that is for everybody who's on remotely. So for anyone viewing tonight's Development Review Board meeting via ORCA Media, you can participate in the discussion via the Zoom platform through either video or telephone access options. If you want the full video experience, please type this link into your web browser. Alternatively, you can dial in from any phone using this phone number, and when prompted, put in this meeting ID. Under either of these options, I will get a notification that you want to come into the meeting and be able to let you in. If someone is trying to get into the meeting and having problems, please email me at mcrandall@montpelier-vt.org. I will be monitoring my email throughout the meeting. For everyone attending via Zoom, turning your video on is optional. And if you turn on your video and suddenly you're having sound issues and delays, just turn your video off and it will probably clear everything up, and then we'll be able to hear each other. For those attending remotely, please keep your microphone on mute when you are not speaking. This will reduce background noise and potential complications. And we ask that especially for members of the public, non-applicants who are on, if you wish to speak, please raise your hand. And then once the chair has called on you, please make sure to state your name and your address. And then you can place it, ask your questions or make your comments for the applications at issue. The Zoom chat function should only be used for troubleshooting or logistics questions. Questions or comments about actual items on the agenda should be verbally. And just trying to see some parts of this I can skip over. We're gonna also just a reminder that both applicants and members of the public should address questions and comments to the board. If the board needs additional information, they will ask the pertinent people. In the event the public is unable to access tonight's meeting, then the meeting will need to be continued to a time and place certain. I will now hand the meeting back over to the chair.
Thank you, Meredith. Next order of business will be the approval of the agenda.
I move we approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Yeah, Alex. All those in favor?
Aye.
The agenda is approved. Okay, so we do have a little procedural housekeeping business to take care of right now. We are required by our bylaws to elect a new chair since our chair did not renew her term. And this will be the chair and vice chair until our regular annual elections in August. And so I guess at this time, I would nominate Kevin O'Connell for vice chair for this holdover period.
I'll second that.
All right. Kevin, do you accept?
Sure.
Okay. So all those in favor of electing Kevin as O'Connell as the vice chair for the remainder of the term until August.
So, I,
Aye.
Okay.
And you have to vote too, Kevin. I need 4
Yeah.
yeses.
Voting for myself?
Yes, you have to, unless we wait until Brian gets here.
We'll accept that. And Chair Rob votes yes. So Kevin will be our vice chair. And
With all the
so
powers and obligations thereof.
exactly. And so we now have to fill the chair position. I'll let the board.
We have 2 vice chairs right now.
Yeah, technically, if
Technically,
Wait.
yes.
nominate
Go
Rob,
backwards.
nominate Rob Goodwin for chair.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Joe. All those in favor of myself being the chair?
Oh, okay. Aye.
I,
Okay. And I vote for myself. Yes, we have a quorum. So we have Rob Goodwin as chairman and Kevin O'Connell as vice chair until our regular elections in August. Thank you all for bearing with us.
Which is still a long ways off. I mean,
Well, remember, we have this meeting, we have one more. Then there's only one meeting in
I just
August.
realized I woke up this morning. I was going, my gosh, it's almost the middle of July. What happened? How did that
It's still the
Yeah.
first week of July.
happen?
Yeah, not quite that.
Right, Joe. I'm being overly pessimistic.
And I guess I will just note, so my general comments is that there are still officially one alternate position and one full-time position open.
2 alternates.
2 alternate positions and 1 full-time position open on this board. And so the board is going to discuss later about whether we will decide to have a meeting in August due to in July, the next meeting, whether we actually have a quorum for that. I mean, it's the height of summer vacations for lots of people, and we're down a few seats and whatnot. So we'll discuss that, later, but just public service announcement. If you're interested, look at the city's website. There's open applications for the DRB. And where, if you have anything to add to that.
Feel free to call me, email me, if anybody is interested. And I can, give you information about the board, how often it meets, obligations, all of those things, as well as help you find the applications if you need to. We definitely need some more members
Mhm.
for sure. Oh,
The-
and here
the
comes
other
Brian.
Other boards having issues as well.
Some of them.
Yeah.
Yep. Some of them are having some issues. And there's, some committees that don't do permits, but some of the other committees actually haven't held meetings in months.
Hmm.
And the city council is reviewing and looking at all of the committees, because I guess the city has like 26 committees, and talking about maybe consolidating some of them, which would help with the membership needs.
Okay.
Hi, Brian. Thank you for joining.
Okay. So Meredith, who do we have here for the VO Road application before I?
Okay,
there.
yes. So Vale Road application, we have John Petrowski and Eric. And Eric, I'm sorry, I can't remember if it's Lyco. or a different pronunciation. So they're both on representing the applicants for tonight's application. And then I believe both Lee Lauber and Sean Beckett on remotely are either abutting property owners or at least nearby neighbors. So they're both on remotely as well when we get to the public comment section on that application.
Wonderful. Okay, so our first application for this evening is Zero Vio Road. This is a subdivision application. And we have Eric and John on on behalf of the applicant. And first thing we're going to do is swear the applicants and the representatives of the applicant in, along with anyone that wishes to speak on the application. So maybe if you're all online, we could use the raise hand function or just give a visual of who's planning on speaking so we can spur you in.
Yeah, so Lee and so this is just for the Veo Road application. There'll be, because this is sort of the hearings within the meeting. So John, Eric, Sean, and Lee, any of you who expect to answer questions or ask questions or make verbal comments, if you could either use the raise hand tool within Zoom or turn on your video and actually raise your right hand. And then Rob will do the little swearing in aspect.
Wonderful. So all those interested in providing testimony on this application, would you please raise your right hand to be sworn in as a witness? Do you solemnly swear and or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
I do. Sorry, my camera, I just realized, is broken.
Oh,
Thank
thank you, Eric. So that was, so your camera's not working. Okay, so, but that's Eric.
My right hand is raised now.
Okay. Thank you, Eric. And Lee, you can give a thumbs up. Nope, you're not going to talk. Okay. Thank you, Lee. And we do have the written testimony, and I'll be talking about that in a little bit.
All right, so just to give a order of process for the board's review of this application, this hearing. First of all, we're gonna get a brief overview from Meredith on sort of where we're at in this application. And the applicant will have an opportunity to sort of present a summary of the application. Then the board will ask questions to the applicant, and then we'll turn it over to public comment, for that portion of the review. Meredith, if you want to give you a brief summary, and then we'll turn it over to Eric.
Sorry. Thought I turned that off. Wow. All right. So this is an application for final review of a 2-parcel subdivision. It was here for the preliminary sketch plan review just like 2 months ago, if that. It creates 2 new parcels off of an existing class 4 road. Both of those parcels have frontage. And the job of the board here is a reminder for everybody, as well as, confirmation for anybody new to the process, is to confirm that the parcels being created meet the basic standards within the zoning regulations and are parcels that can be developed in the future. So there's information in this application about potential future development, including here where they're outside of the city water and sewer services, that they are capable of having state, private, water and sewer sufficient for some level of development. This is not a approval that limits that future development to what is shown as possible within these forms. The property owner, future developers will actually have to come back to the planning department to get additional zoning and other permits before they actually do anything further to these pieces of land other than just create this new parcel line. But the board has to know that the parcels being created can be developed. So that's why there's so much information in here.
Which is
Okay.
really the prerogative of the applicant, isn't it? As to how much information above and beyond the,
Yes, for this, because they're outside of the city water and sewer services,
okay,
they have to show an ability to comply with the state
okay, good point.
water and sewer requirements unless the new land is going to be conserved or otherwise reserved for a use that does not require water and sewer. Like we had one where it was a farm, a community farmland.
Yeah.
In which case they didn't have to have a sewer service.
Right.
Thank you, Kevin. It's always good to have the clarifying questions for the record.
Well, that's why I asked them.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Okay. So John, are you going to be taking the lead in this application?
No, Eric will on this one.
Okay. Yeah, Eric, if you want to just give a summary of where we're at, maybe highlight any changes in sketch plan to the application, and if you've reviewed the staff report, feel free to touch on any responses or comments you have on that.
Yeah. So I guess I can run through just a couple of the main ones from the staff report. I had discussed with our survey director regarding the acreage discrepancies that were brought up. And he recommended that because one of the parcel lines, it runs along the stream, that it may be subject to change, likely will move over time. So their kind of standard would be to label the acreage to the nearest 0.1 with a plus or minus. So his recommendation is that, when we bring you the final plat, the acreages will reflect that recommendation, and those will be what we go with for lots 2 and 3. Another item was, let's see, next one was again about the parcel sizes. One was regarding the required corner markers to be shown. Again, our survey director mentioned that he goes by the rules of the Board of Land Surveyors. So what he showed on the plat is what's required of him from the board. But it's definitely an option for him to set more. But we would need an indication from you guys on where those extra markers would be required. And then those can be added to the plat as well. Additionally, regarding the mention of shared drilled wells, the drilled wells will not be shared. Each parcel will have its own drilled well. That was just an error in the callouts, so that will be revised and removed. Regarding the shared wastewater system, a maintenance agreement will be established, and that'll be recorded as directed in the report. And then, yes, a state water and wastewater permit will be received prior to any construction on the parcel. For the utilities, this is one to this one. As much as practicable, utilities will run underground, but we'll follow Green Mountain Power regulations on that one, unless they discovered ledge when they were running to the different house sites. I believe that those were the main ones. So I will turn it back over to you guys.
So I guess I could provide you feedback on a couple of those before we get fully into it. So the rods and markers, historically on this board, we haven't required you to set markers at every angle point on the, on the public road or the right of way. But it's really focused on the new line at which you guys are creating with this subdivision to just make sure that that's monumented, you know, prior to you recording your plat. And you do have, I think, is it 180 days after our approval to record the plat? Yeah. And so I think if maybe the board can, weigh in on this, there's a lot of these final tweaks to the plat. I would just say that you do have 180 days, as these final details of the wastewater permit and your setting monumentation, get established, before you submit that and record that. And, I think that there's a reason in the regulations why you have that buffer for, for this type of thing. But, I guess I would guide and
I would think,
speak up otherwise, but it's the wastewater permit and everything like that. It's best if the plat does reflect all that information, as much as it can. So don't rush to necessarily record the plat, because you have 180 days to do so to make it sync up with sort of all the other odds and ends of the development that are going to happen during that period.
we definitely will be setting markers at all the corners, except the ones that fall in the center of the river. There's at least two spots where it falls right in the river, and obviously, Gerald will show what's set. Gerald, our land surveyor,
Yep.
and sometimes they'll do an offset marker just so that somebody that buys the lot can see a straight line between their points. But at all angle points, we will, and I appreciate the fact that you're not asking us to set markers at every angle point along VO Road. That would be not very productive, and it's a lot of markers.
Yeah.
Well,
But other than that, and sometimes he doesn't show them on the plat because he's required before we record this plat. By law, he's required to set the pins and then give you the plat and show the pins that are set. So we will do that. And regarding the WW permit, the state water wastewater permit, I believe that's already come in and been delivered. Meredith, have you seen a copy of that yet?
I can't remember if what we have is what was approved. I'd have to scroll through here and probably make everybody really dizzy because I don't
No, we'll,
out the
Eric,
packet for myself.
we'll just send you a copy tomorrow. We have it though.
Yeah, and I mean, it may be that it's in here. I think that part of it was also there was discussion about that the easement areas might be adjusted. I think, is that what you were
yeah.
more about what you were saying?
Yes, exactly.
That confirming the width of the easements, because the way it was presented in the application was that the easement areas might change a little bit depending on actual build. But I think that there's a way to set these dimensions for the easement area on the plat that gives enough wiggle room for some shifting of the lines.
Yeah, we do that because contractors don't, it's not a perfect science, and
Yeah.
if they build it 5 feet left or right, the easement will run with the actual leach field so that we have the full easement width for future maintenance and service.
I think that makes sense.
Yep. And that's what the note will say, is it runs with the actual construct. That's pretty common practice.
Sure.
If I would just say that to make sure then, and maybe what the board could do is add a condition that the as-built location has to be filed with at least the zoning administrator.
That'd be fine.
And I think that because that's not necessarily something that is always required for future permits, but I think that's something that could probably be added onto the subdivision as a condition, because I can't put that as a condition of my zoning permit.
Yeah.
Right.
I'd be surprised if it
Build.
changes, but we put that there just in case.
Yep.
Wonderful. Board members have any questions at this point? Nope. Nope.
Hold on, I'm gonna just expand this so we can see. Alex or Brian, any questions? Okay, head shake from Alex.
No, I don't have any questions, Meredith. Thanks.
Thanks. I wasn't sure if you could hear Rob or not, so.
The board may return to questions for a couple more, but I know we do have a couple of folks from the public. Go ahead.
Well, I know that, did we want to read off the submissions, the written submissions that we got? Because one of these is actually from the two people we have on remotely.
Yeah, I was going to acknowledge
Okay,
that.
so I thought you were asking to see if they wanted to talk. But two of them are signatories on this one.
But they didn't ask where the stuff is, and they just submitted a letter.
Yeah,
Sean and Allison.
yep, Sean's on remotely and Lee, and they submitted this letter
Yeah.
today. So I'm not sure that
Were
they're
they
gonna
on
have much to
the
say.
list of people that wanted to speak, or?
They haven't necessarily told me they wanted to speak. They're on remotely.
Yeah.
And I had told them that I would make sure that everybody got this.
Um,
And then I've got somebody else who's not on remotely that sent me and
Yep.
gave me a letter.
Okay. So Sean, we do have your written comments here. Would you like to sort of expand upon them or summarize them on the record here?
Sure. Yeah, Sean Beckett, 2996 Elm Street. We're one of a couple neighbors whose driveways are accessed by VO Road. And yeah, thanks for reviewing the letter that we sent earlier today. We recognize that this is a little bit outside of the scope of the decision for this subdivision meeting tonight, and perhaps better suited for future future parts of this process. But we just wanted to raise a couple of concerns we had, particularly around the use and responsibility and accountability around VO Road itself. Three things, basically. One, that the city has historically maintained the first 100 or 150 feet of VO Road, and we would like to make sure that that remains the case. Number two, we just kind of request that we recognize that the level of improvement of the Class 4 portion of VO Road will be determined by the level of development that's up there, and what sort of vehicles need to make it up there to complete that development. But I just wanted to request that the kind of the aesthetic of this area be maintained. VO Road's a beautiful narrow shaded pathway that runs through the backyards of four neighbors, and just want to have it recognized that that's a nice aesthetic, and just wanted to express that. And then, yeah, and third, and perhaps most importantly, there's several of us that are basically downslope of the culverts and drainages of VO Road, and we just want to make sure that any improvements that are done to VO Road by this applicant or future landowners are being done under the review of the Department of Public Works, and that drainage patterns and culverts are not being moved to shed new water into people's backyards downslope here. So that's the gist of our letter. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. John and Eric, I remember you guys discussed a sketch plan, particularly with the drainage issue, number of upgrades to the existing, VO Road as part of this process, not part of the subdivision. Do you have anything to sort of add now that we're at the final subdivision on the record here?
I guess the main thing, is we did meet with Corey Line of the Department of Public Works regarding the subdivision here. And he, walked the road, observed that it currently drains without critical ponding, no severe, erosion or washed out areas. And because of that, he's not requiring upgrades associated with the addition of the proposed development at this time. The only requirement would be that the road is left in a state that's considered equal or better than its current condition after construction activities are completed. So, those were his comments that we received. But yeah, I mean, obviously a future design wouldn't be discharging stormwater, straight onto an adjoiner's property. It would, have a proper ditch along the road and direct flows accordingly.
Yeah, I think that's a big item is that we have no right to change any drainage patterns, and we're not proposing to do that. Although I think it would be naive to think that when they build these homes, there might be some amount, those trees are low enough that trucks going up and down the road there might need to be some trimming and some maybe a little bit of widening, maybe a culvert needs to be replaced, although we don't think so at this time. And the road will probably be freshened up and resurfaced after the construction activity just to restore it to an equal or better state. But there's nothing major planned, and Public Works really owns and controls this more than the applicant.
So do you have an inventory of how many culverts there are?
No, Public Works might have looked at each one, but we don't have that inventory.
But there's maybe one, maybe two, maybe three.
I think there's several. I don't think there's just one. Eric, do you know?
I don't know off the top of my head.
I mean, I've walked up and down that road several times. I know there's at least two, but there might
Yeah.
even be more than two.
And so that would be the responsibility of the future landowner to maintain those, since the city's obviously not,
Right, as a class 4 road, I'm not positive on that, but I think as a class 4 road, it would be the responsibility of the applicant to keep it in class 4 good working order. But from a statutory standpoint, I'm not completely positive on that. There may be some town responsibilities because it is still a town class 4 road. It's not a private road. But I'm not an expert on that. I'm not sure. Public Works seemed to have a good handle on it, and they visited the site, and they felt like there was no work that the city needed to do.
Sure. I guess I just open up to the board. Maybe Meredith, if you have any sense. I mean, to me, it's when I look at the subdivision, it's really the only, thing worth, well, one of the key things that, worth of discussion here is that, it's like the long term, we talk about like we're creating 2 new lots, building houses, we have this road that's going to be maintained by somebody, what does that look like, in this process? Do we, is there anything that we should be aware of?
Yeah. So, I mean, class 4 roads were kind of a tricky thing. And I'm going to be honest that it's not like I went and looked at Montpelier's, I don't review the DPW standards. I think that, in general for class 4 roads, property owners that live off of them can't damage them, can't, make changes to them without the city's okay. But the city is not responsible for, say, repairing a washout or repairing a culvert that has been washed out. But if you put in a culvert, it has to meet the specifications of the city. So, this is a situation where, if the future developer, whether it's the current applicant or somebody, some future landowner, is bringing in heavy equipment and it damages a culvert, the city's gonna, Department of Public Works is gonna make them replace that culvert. And that if they know they're gonna be bringing in heavy equipment, they might need to do some things to the road so that it is up to par to be able to hold that equipment without damaging the road. But then they might have to then put the road back to the prior condition if needed. You've got a couple of options, and it will be work with Department of Public Works. They have jurisdiction over that road. It's not that the subdivision itself requires that the road be upgraded to a certain standard. That's what came in from Corey. So in that aspect, under the subdivision standards that the board is charged with reviewing, upgrading the road is not necessary for the development, for the subdivision to occur. Like if the road didn't actually extend far enough for access to the rear parcel, that would be something where maybe the board would say, hey, you have to put forward enough money to provide sufficient road access to get to that rear parcel. And that's where Corey's opinion saying the road is not required to be upgraded comes into play.
Yeah.
Right? Because if somebody, instead of doing the proposed development, somebody did something much smaller, bought two parcels, just put in one single family home, and it was a tiny house with a smaller septic system, you wouldn't need as big of equipment to get up there, maybe, other than,
Right.
say, the well
Well,
driller truck.
There's a whole bunch of hypotheticals.
Yeah, there's a lot of hypotheticals for the future development.
We should be careful not to
Sure.
go down that
Yep.
road too far.
Exactly.
Exactly. But what I'm hearing, it seems like it is a city right of way. So any work or upgrades within the right of way would need correspondence and approval from Public
Yeah.
Works to do so.
Yeah.
Yep, they will
Yeah,
need those
that's the
approvals and permits.
That's the part that we definitely should drill down on.
And so those are any future zoning permits for any of this development, including the driveways, is gonna require zoning approvals, and the new curb cuts, driveways, accesses to the road will require Department of Public Works permits. And that's where Department of Public Works will see what's being proposed and get a better sense of what will have to happen on the road.
All right. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah, it's our intent to just continue to work with Public Works. I think they drive the ship.
Absolutely. Well, I think I'm set here. Pretty straightforward. I don't know if anyone else has anything else. Meredith, did we miss anything?
I have the one additional public comment that came in.
Public comment. I knew I'd forget.
It's okay. I had it already up on my screen. So I am gonna, maybe I'm not gonna show this. Hold on. There we go. I'm gonna close that. So this was dropped off at the office today. So it's from Kevin Goss, who I believe is an abutting property owner. I'd have to double check my map. But he said, quote, I have no problem with the subdivision other than my concern with runoff coming into my backyard. Thank you, Kevin Goss. So it goes back to the stormwater questions. And especially with the road, the Department of Public Works has standards for how they have to do the ditching and where they have to put culverts. That'll be a large part of the controls for that.
Yeah.
For the future actual plans.
I mean, what's unique about this project is that the driveways and the houses and the lots themselves, runoff will be internal and work its way down towards the river, and not really down VO Road. Everything is away from VO Road. So we're not anticipating any runoff issues.
Absolutely. Thank you. Any more public comments? Anyone online wish to speak? Okay, we're good. So board members, with that, I'm all set. I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the application for the subdivision.
There's some,
With an easement detailing written maintenance and repair responsibilities for the septic system and any shared wells shall be recorded in the land records and presented to the zoning administrator prior to recording of the final plat. And then within 80 days of the decision, applicant shall record the final survey plat in the Montpelier Land Records Office per the procedures detailed in parts 4405 of the zoning regulations, and including necessary easement for shared water and wastewater systems and the locations of all applicable survey rods and markers. And 3, no.
Yep.
Future as-built septic to be filed with the zoning administrator when complete.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kevin.
Was that 80 days or 180 days?
180.
Okay, thank you.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have motion by Kevin, second by Joe. So we'll do a roll call vote for the approval of the motion. Kevin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
Brian?
You're muted, Brian.
And Rob votes yes. We'll wait for Brian.
I mean, 4 is,
4 is enough.
Yep.
So the application is approved with 4 votes. And I thank you very much for your time here on the board. And Meredith will get with you on the details of the next steps, the process of as far as the decision
Yeah.
and everything else.
so yeah, a written decision has to come out for the final approval to be official. So feel free to, move forward with the easement language, things like that need to be done before the final plat can be recorded. Because the written decision will just reflect everything tonight with the motion. And we'll get to that as soon as possible, because when the written decision is signed, I'll contact you to pick up that as well as the zoning permit at the same time. Those will get issued at the same time. And then your clock will start ticking for the 180 days.
Thank you very much. You guys have a great night.
You too. Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
we'll have a 5-minute recess before the next application. That's okay.
Good thinking. I appreciate that.
or turn your camera on. Okay, cool. Brian is there. Awesome. So Brian's back. So that gives us 4. Do we want to give Alex a couple more minutes just in case?
We can get started. We gotta swear people in and
Yeah, it's true.
Um, okay. So we have Nick speak on this application. Do we have anyone else that plans to speak on this application?
I think Emily's there as well. Looks like, yep, Nicholas and Emily. Sean, you're still on and connected. Did you think you might want to speak on this application for 230 Perkins? No,
We'll take that as a no.
I'll take yeah.
Um,
I think maybe he just didn't get, and Alex is back. I'm wondering if
Okay.
Sean just didn't fully disconnect.
we'll swear in too. So all those interested in providing testimony on this application, would you please raise your right hand to be sworn in as a witness? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury?
Yes.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Okay, so for the 230 Perkins Road application, we'll have Meredith give a brief update here, and then turn it over to the applicant.
So similar to the prior application, this is a request for review of a 2-parcel subdivision, final approval. In this instance, at the sketch plan, there wasn't a full draft survey yet. That's now included in the application. So there's been a little shifting of numbers based on that more detailed information. We did get one of the comments I had made is that the state wastewater and potable water permits for the existing development would need to be amended to account for the subdivision, which will mean a loss of land for that existing permit. And I forwarded to the board members an email and an update that came in today from Derek Bevins, the surveyor, that that permit will be able to be amended to include the subdivision. And this is one of like if you go into the state statutes, this statement based on a surveyor saying that that is something that can occur is evidence of that. And that an application is already drafted for submittal to the state, and it will be submitted once the DRB approves the subdivision to make sure that those permits get amended. But that the subdivision isn't going to affect the prior permit. Or at least not, invalidate it. It'll just take away some of this land, but that's fine.
Absolutely. All right, thank you, Meredith. All right, Nick, do you have any sort of staff report comments or updates since your sketch plan? Just maybe a brief summary of where you're at?
Yeah, I mean, I think Meredith just hit the high point. We've got the septic designed, and that permit application is all teed up and ready to go in. And that will also be the state subdivision approval. And we had a new septic system put in on the existing house we have here 4 or 5 years ago. So this new wastewater application they'll do as an amendment to that permit that we had previously done. So that again, that's all teed up, ready to go. We kind of wanted to let the DRB process play out a little bit and make sure we didn't need to adjust any lines, any boundary lines or anything before getting that in. And I think that was kind of the main issue that Meredith had flagged in the staff report. I guess one other thing was whether new power and data lines for servicing the new parcel 2 would be buried. The potential building site we're looking at is right adjacent to a Washington Electric power line easement, and we're expecting to pull power and data off of that. I don't know if WEC has any preference on underground versus overhead. So we haven't kind of gotten that far yet with that piece. And then the last thing that was flagged in the staff report was about landscaping, and we had discussed that in the sketch plan review that there would be some clearing that we would need to do because the cleared area is the power line easement where we're not allowed to build. So building adjacent to that, we would have to do some clearing. We don't have any concrete plan, but the idea is to keep it pretty minimal. And if we would be building on the north side of the power line, and so we already have that 50-foot cleared towards the south, so we're already starting to get that kind of southern exposure opening. So again, the idea is kind of keep it fairly minimal.
So yeah, as far as the power and data lines, the board has sort of used discretion for these smaller subdivisions, realizing that our regulations with more written for that, for, larger subdivisions where you have new streets and whatnot, and the preference is everything underground. But here where you're just creating like one lot, is sort of like the best thing is what's most consistent with what's already there. And so you got poles there already. So I don't think the board would see an issue, with that sort of as you have it. The, we do have some comments here is that there are some steep slopes on your parcel, but, I think you've read the staff report, you're on notice as to, if you do enter into those areas, you would need potentially some additional permits, from the zoning administrator or the board, depending on that. But nothing really specific to the subdivision itself, in that regard. As far as landscaping goes, I mean, I don't know, the board can talk. We have a pretty wood area, minimal clearing, or some clearing is to be expected, but a lot of great wood, Vermont forest landscaping will certainly remain. And I know that we have a screening or landscaping issue, but anyone on the board can say otherwise. So I guess maybe we can just talk briefly about the status of the wastewater permit. Maybe Joe, did you have a question, or Meredith a question?
Meredith answered it for the most part.
Was that on record though, or was that separate?
That was separate, I
Yeah.
guess, but
Um,
I can reiterate it.
yeah, I think we may as well.
I was just curious at what point in the process we, need to confirm that the state wastewater permit has actually been obtained.
Yep. And I think for this, it makes sense with what Nicholas said that, we have a statement from the surveyor here, that the applicant submitted, saying that the existing permit would be amended to include the subdivision of parcel 1, and basically that, Derek Bevins is attesting that the permit will be able to be amended with this written submission, to account for the subdivision. And with what Nicholas was saying, that, they can't, if the board were to say, require that some of the parcel lines be adjusted, if they had reached out and gotten their permit amended already, they would then potentially have to go back and get it amended again if the board approved the subdivision with slightly adjusted parcel lines or some other adjustment to the plat. So the sequencing works okay, and we have a professional's statement that the subdivision will not impact the prior permit, other than it will need to be amended to remove this land from that permit.
I see. And I understand all that.
Yeah.
I suppose the hypothetical question would be, what if this statement turned out to be incorrect for whatever reason?
So the thing is that, then they'd be in violation of the zoning regulations because they would have made a false statement. And they would not get permits to do anything with that additional parcel.
For the
And it might actually invalidate the whole thing as well.
Okay.
Because they submitted false statements
Gotcha.
to obtain the permit, which then validates the permit, I believe. It kind of, there'd be a process to go through to make that happen. But, you know, lying to get your permit basically means that the permit's not valid. If you lie about like where your property line
Or you're
is.
just not saying he's lying, but he's
Right.
telling the truth here. It just doesn't happen. Is
Right.
what I was saying.
Yep,
Yeah.
no, but I mean, yeah, but that's,
Legally the same thing.
I'm not gonna say that for sure. My law license is not currently active, and that's not, but effectively, it would say, hey, you know, that's not sufficient. And you could always, you know, as soon as the subdivision has been approved here, they probably don't have to wait for that to be recorded, the plat to be recorded, to be able to file, because we're not changing where that parcel line is, right? Further, if they then came back and said, we suddenly can't get our wastewater permit, then I would send them back to the board to amend that subdivision approval.
Okay.
Right? You know, the board could always say, hey, you know, you need to make sure that the wastewater permit is recorded or completed. But a lot of times, you know, for others we've had where it's going to create an amendment. We have a statement from somebody that says, you know, this will be able to occur.
Okay. Thank you.
And
Martha.
especially when it's a professional staking their professional licensure on something.
Okay.
So I guess, you know, a final note, I just, you know, there are some wetlands streams on the parcel, but the Conservation Commission on May 2nd reviewed the application, had no concerns. So that usually means that the board doesn't also have any concerns there. So with that, do we have any public comment on this? We didn't swear anyone in, but any written comments?
No.
No.
Nope.
Nope.
No comments from neighbors, no concerns, nothing from neighboring towns that had to get notification. So I've had multiple, I think have had 3 subdivision applications in the last couple of months where I had to notify abutting towns. When I think I've had one of those in the prior 6.5 years. So
So
been interesting.
How do you do that actually? I mean,
well, one, you have to actually notify the town clerk's office. And I search up through the state records and confirm with the neighboring town who owns those other properties.
Okay. Mhm.
So, yeah, it adds a little bit of footwork.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's good
but
though.
but it exists all around
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's just been kind of funny. I haven't really had
Right.
border ones to do
Yeah.
much in the last few years, but pretty recently.
Guess with that, unless anyone has any questions, comments, I'll entertain a motion.
To make a motion. Motion to approve a 2-parcel subdivision of 230 Perkins Road as presented in application Z 2025 0056 and supporting and supplemental materials, subject to the following conditions of approval. 1, within 180 days of this decision, applicant shall record the final survey plat in the Montpelier Land Records Office per the procedures detailed in section 4405 of the zoning regulations, including the location of all applicable survey rods and markers. And that is the only condition.
Wonderful.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Joe for approval and second by Kevin. We will do roll call vote. Kevin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Rob votes yes, so that is 5 votes for yes and is approved.
Awesome.
Okay, then.
So similar to the prior one, you'll get a written decision and that'll be the official decision and start of the appeal period. Again, with this, there's no pre-permit conditions, so you will get the subdivision zoning permit at the same time the decision is signed. And then your 180 days to record the final plat will start ticking. And for that, I didn't mention this previously, I'll talk to them about it too. For the final plat process, when you have that final Mylar, you'll deliver that to my office and I will work to get the chair's signature on that. And then once that's happened, I'll run it over to the city clerk's office and I'll let you know when it's there for recording. And they'll just record it at that time, and especially here where my understanding is there's no like imminent sale happening needed for this to all, be the trigger point. But do let me know if something like that is coming up. So that I can, make sure that things are coordinated as needed. But typically, for something like this, I let you know that it's at the city clerk's office for recording, and you don't have any easements or anything to worry about for this one. So it's a little bit simpler than some of the others.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night, everyone.
Okay, we are on to reviewing the minutes from June 2nd.
June 2nd.
We had Rob, Joe, Alex, and Brian were in attendance at that meeting.
So, okay, that's why I can't remember.
Yeah.
Was there a quorum?
Yes, we just need 4.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that motion, although I can't find the minutes.
Sorry.
Bottom of the packet.
Yeah, it should be at the very bottom of the packet, Alex. Sorry that I don't, I could start, if people really want, I can start attaching them individually, instead of just having them in the packet. It's just one more item to download individually. So I try and just include them in the packet.
I think it makes sense just to do what you.
Yeah.
It works fine.
Awesome.
we don't-
Thank you.
Don't,
All right. So you have a motion and a second.
I will now attest that I've seen them and looked at them.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Okay, well, all those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
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 All right, the minutes from June 2nd are approved.
okay.
Okay, hold on. I hear voices like gearing up to leave.
No, we got
Oh, we
business.
have-
We got
Yeah,
to
we got
talk
another
about the next
business.
meeting. That's I guess.
Monday, July 20.
So there's a meeting on July 21st. There's what, 3 applications?
Yeah, I have 3 applications for
I can't hear again.
Uh-oh. Huh.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, what about now, Alex? Weird.
Not my area of expertise.
Yep, hold on.
Certainly not mine.
Can you hear now?
Hold on.
She nodded her head. She knows
You
talking.
can see your lips.
Yes, you can see our lips moving.
It's really weird that she could just hear us, then seemingly nothing happened,
Yeah,
and now she can't.
I don't know. I do not know sign language. So
Yep.
Be convenient.
I'm chatting with her.
Yep.
Alex, can you hear anything now?
afterwards.
Hold on.
Maybe log out and back in.
What about now, Alex? Nope.
Hmm.
I suggested she try her microphone settings, but now I'm going to suggest try logging off and then back in.
So
Do we have any applications for the next
yeah,
meeting?
there's 3. So how many members we have that are actually on? We have
6.
we have 6.
We have 6 members.
on, so we have 5. So only
That gets us down to 5. You have to have
4.
a minimum of 4, and if you only have 4 members, everybody has to
That's the-
approve the application for it to get approved.
It's not a way to do business.
It's like inevitably something can happen to anybody, and we don't have any
Well,
alternates.
Or somebody's
Yeah.
has to recuse themselves.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, you can have a meeting with 4, but it's tough.
We need to solve the problem right now.
Well, we've been pushing, we've
I know.
advertised, you've been
be-
discussing
yeah.
with a prospective member. We've actually been discussing, you've been discussing with 2, I've been discussing with 1.
We,
I guess my position as the current chair is that I don't think that we should have the meeting on the 21st. I think there's
let's see who's on vacation. Because I don't, if you don't have a quorum, you can definitely say no meeting. If there
Well, we're not-
is potentially a quorum, and because there's the option to elect, have an acting chair if you don't have your chair or your vice chair available. And because, I mean, technically we have a vice chair now,
Yep.
or the board has a vice chair now. It makes it a little tough to say you can't have a meeting.
I can say it. I said we can't have a meeting.
Yeah, I don't see. I mean, I think it's just like we have a quorum, but we have 0 margin for error for a quorum, and it's the middle of summer, and
Yeah.
Might behoove
Yeah,
the
I think
applicant to
it
wait
make
2 weeks.
things happen.
I mean, that's the other thing, is I can also reach out to the applicants to
Yeah.
see.
But
So-
it's easier for us to like in a meeting decide it to
I
postpone.
just hold on.
Yeah.
So Joe, are you right now?
Yeah.
You'll be around. Right now, you don't have a reason that you can't be here on the 21st. I'm checking with everybody, right? I know Catherine said she would be
Yeah.
here.
I got no daycare that day, but other than that, I'm around.
Okay. Brian, Alex, can you hear me?
Yes, I can now hear you.
Okay, great.
Yay.
And now for some reason we don't have that weird echo, so we'll go with it. Alex, as of right now, do you anticipate being able to be here on July 21st?
Yes, but I'll be coming back from the Cape on the 20th.
Oh, so that's theoretically iffy.
Yeah, so.
Um,
that's an iffy
Flying.
question there.
So
But, I have dog care until the 20th. So it's like the daycare problem. I have to be here on the 21st.
yeah. Yeah, that doesn't mean you're going to be in any condition to actually sign on for a 3 application meeting that night.
No, but, life goes on.
Yes. And the other thing is, yep. Okay. So we've got that. And then, Brian, do you see any issues? I mean, because we would need you to be available for the full meeting probably, because, if anybody for some reason couldn't attend, we'd be down to just barely a quorum of 4. So what do you have for conflicts on the 21st possibly?
I don't believe I have any.
Okay.
Are there no applicants?
Oh, we have 3 applications.
No, I didn't mean about for the meeting on the 21st. I mean to join us.
We have one who had applied, but then he has since said, hey, can we put this on hold? I can't do anything until September. No one else has applied so far for the 3 open seats. I'm just making a couple notes.
We have to make it look like more fun.
Yes.
So Kevin is, I mean, vice chair. I mean, because I know wasn't it Catherine? It was either Catherine or Joe who stepped in as an acting chair at one point and ran one meeting.
Yeah,
Catherine.
Catherine.
I'm not done.
Yeah, you're like, no.
Definitely not.
Okay,
Well,
so Catherine has done that before. So if you and she could tag team
Right?
and collaborate, and we did like we've done before where we had meetings ahead of time to discuss, would you feel like you could?
I have, well, if we get into more meetings, planning meetings, that might be difficult this time of year.
Oh, but I just meant you, me, and Catherine having a prep meeting. Is that what you meant? That it
Yeah.
might be difficult to organize that?
Right.
I mean, it's
I will say I will remain available.
okay.
Yep.
Okay, because yeah, I don't know as you are allowed to say no meeting, you have a quorum
How
well,
when I've already warned it.
difficult it could be.
quorum issue is a pretty easy one to solve. No, we're on the record.
So we'll just,
Yeah.
we'll just go. with it.
I mean,
I
Chris
just-
has run these before, Catherine has run these before. Catherine has said she'll be here on the 21st, and I already warned it. So there has to be, unless we literally don't have a quorum, we're supposed to meet
Yep.
and give the public an opportunity to show up, even if we just say, hey, we know you're here, we'll take your
Sure.
So the board can always decide on some of the applications that they don't feel they
Yep.
can make a decision yet. And especially if it's down to 4, I have been in this room before and had a board member say, hey, we'll let you make your case, but then,
Meredith,
do you want us to continue? So there's options.
with the meeting that we're trying to coalesce
Mhm.
Later this month, how many people does it look like we're gonna have? Do we have?
I think we'll have 5. As long as we don't have anybody drop out, we need 4 for a quorum.
Yeah, and I'm uncomfortable trying to do 3 applications without, it's barely a quorum.
Yeah, so one of them is a sketch plan subdivision, so no decision on that one. One is a driveway issue. Can they have 2 driveways? Is the board willing to let them have 2 driveways
Okay.
and one that's minimum
We-
spacing? Those are pretty simple.
We have precedent on that.
Yep. And then the last one, which is actually the first on the agenda, the toughest one, is it's a new house involving slopes, also requesting a side setback waiver of a little bit to allow overhang of a.
Just in,
No, this is, give me one second, Marvin Street. It's well, that's the other thing. Does anybody have any conflicts with Marvin Street potentially?
No conflicts with Marvin Street, but Marvin Street's a pretty impossible street.
Yeah, so this is a parcel that was created a few years ago for a subdivision. And so the applicant has had to put together a full stormwater plan, even though our regulations don't require it, because it was a condition of the prior subdivision. So that's that one. The sketch plan subdivision is a big property off of River Street. The old, I want to say Leahy Press building. And that's sketch plan, so no decision. And then I can't come up right now with the second driveway is Elm Street, kind of near the pool, like just south of the pool, I think.
Do you have the house number on the Marvin Street one?
It's 0. There's no house. It's the vacant parcel on Marvin Street.
Help me out, I'm just drawing a blank on location.
Yep, give me one second, just to make sure that
No,
nobody
I-
has any
no, I-
conflicts, because that'll zoom stuff
Uh,
out. Ooh, got that weird
Pretty
whistle
close.
going again, but we'll take
We
it.
manage a property, shares a border with the Marvin Street property, but
Oh,
that one,
About zero.
no.
yeah, it is. It's comes up sometimes as 20 Marvin. So it's between 18 and 22. There's a vacant parcel between 18 Marvin and 22 Marvin.
It's just a block up
it's-
of Liberty.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's the third parcel
I'm good.
up from
Oh,
the
I see it.
corner of Marvin and Bingham.
It's not very big.
No, it's a small parcel. I mean, they're all similar to other parcels in the area.
Didn't we do a subdivision on that street?
Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
they
that's
said.
true.
Yeah, you guys were, at least the two of you were on the board when
Yeah.
that subdivision happened.
And that was like 3 or 4 years ago, maybe longer.
I think it may have been longer, but
There's two driveways on that parcel, one parcel? No.
no, this is a different, this is
Oh,
the,
that's
this is the slopes and side setback. But I mean, it's a really highly detailed application with engineered plans and a full stormwater.
Just one unit.
Wouldn't the only
Just single
issue
family
there
unit?
be
Yep.
the abutting property owner, really?
Pardon?
Wouldn't the major issue there be the abutting property owner?
The nearby property owners, yeah.
I think we
Have they
should-
made any comments? Have they been, do we know? if
Not
they
yet,
know
but
about it?
that warning just went out last week.
Okay,
we should say that all should have a minimum of 2 units.
That'd be nice, but I can't do that.
Can't do it.
I just-
Yes,
Sorry, I just wanted to sneak in one question. This 0 Marvin Street, you said it had to do with the roof setback? Or
hold on. Yep,
The roof overhang and the setback. Is there a section in the code that speaks to that allows,
yeah,
There
so
is-
it's section 3003
okay,
has, or not, sorry, 3002. If you look in there, there is a whole figure that gives the allowed
encroachment?
like leeway, where the board has leeway to grant specific waivers of side setbacks. And so what they're requesting is within that, and then what the board has to do, and I can't remember the number off the top of my head, there's a variances and waivers section in the zoning regulations that lay out the criteria.
Okay,
And so, when I provide you with the application, part of that packet is a waiver and variance form where they've had to spell out how they meet those waiver criteria.
yeah,
So there's very
Okay.
specific criteria that an applicant has to show to be allowed even the specified waiver ranges that the board can grant.
Okay, so that's all the pre-planning we can do for now.
Sounds like we'll have a quorum unless something happens, and if something happens,
I guess
Then
my
that's-
recommendation would be to communicate to the applicants. I mean, the sketch plan
Yeah.
is fine, just that,
Yeah.
there's a chance it's only 4 people and, will be
Well,
anonymous and that, they can.
Well, sketch plan, you could have 2 people and
Sure.
still have a,
No.
You'd have 3 or 4
you
people.
can't have a meeting. You have to have at least 4 for a meeting.
Yeah.
So,
And I would just note to
Yeah.
make sure maybe it gets put in the minutes that, it's like we have some applications, we have some things to fill and like, if we don't have a quorum, applications might not get approved and meetings can take longer. So, it's like folks in this community, you have opportunity to step up and, be a member of the board. It's needed in order to, do the business of the board. So as long as we exist.
Spirits.
So, let's accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
second,
All right. All those in favor?
hi,
All right, great.
thank you.
Okey dokey.
thank you, everybody.
So when all.
Oh. It looks like Alex got